In anticipation of the release of Alien Romulus,
Welcome to the Romulus space station.
and all the untold horrors that will be unleashed upon those unsuspecting souls on that ship.
Run.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Let's head back to where it all began. Let's go back 45 years in time to the Nostromo commercial vessel and her motley crew. The original Alien movie was an absolute masterclass in slowly ratcheting up sci-fi terror in a way audiences hadn't seen before. It perfectly played on our fear of the unknown. From the grim interior of the Nostromo, to the alien moon they land on, to the derelict alien ship, to the actual xenomorph itself. From H.R. Giger's now famous and iconic alien designs, to the intense atmosphere that Ridley Scott managed to carve out, as well as introducing us to one of the most iconic heroines in all of movie history, it all managed to come together in one of the scariest movies ever produced. It was a movie that almost didn't get made. It started off with a meager $4 million budget, which scared away more prominent actors and directors of the time, including Tom Skerritt, who was initially approached to play Dallas. Scott also wanted to work with Sigourney Weaver after seeing her casting call. She was a complete unknown at the time and the studio didn't want her. Scott was also only at the start of his career, stood fast. Legendary producer Walter Hill then managed to get the studio to double the budget after seeing Ridley Scott's storyboards, which brought Tom Skerritt back and they got the green light for Weaver. Even at $8 million, which inflation adjusted is still only a measly $35 million in today's money, they set off to unknowingly change movie history forever. We're introduced to the Nostromo commercial ship. It's returning to Earth carrying an incredible amount of ore. The ship initially looks empty. The gritty design and the low-key lighting, combined with the ominous music, sets the creepy and eerie tone for what's to come. We're then introduced to the crew of the Nostromo. They're woken up from their space slumber. They quickly figure out that they are very far from their destination.
How are we doing out here?
Over. It's not our system.
Dallas got instructions from the company to check on a distress call from a distant moon they happen to be close to.
Seems she has intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Human.
Unknown.
In later movies, we learn that this moon is called LV-426. A rough landing on the very inhospitable moon's surface means they're stranded there while repairs are being done to the ship. Dallas, Kane and Lambert go exploring to see if they can find the origin of the distress signal. They happen upon an alien craft of completely unknown origin. That's where things starts to go wrong. While exploring the alien vessel, they discover a huge room with a dead space jockey in the seat. The space jockey was killed right where it sat. It's an otherworldly, sinister scene. In another room, Kane stumbles upon a bunch of huge alien eggs. One of them opens up and he ends up with an alien where his face used to be. He's still alive, barely, and they bring him back to the Nostromo to try to figure out what's happening with him. Ripley denies them entry because of said alien stuck to Kane's face.
We have to get him to the infirmary right away.
What kind of thing?
Open the hatch.
Would you open the goddamn hatch?
No.
I can't do that.
Ash then goes rogue and breaks protocol to let them in. They try to remove the facehugger to no avail. A day or so later, Kane wakes up with the facehugger having detached all by itself. They find the now dead facehugger and Ash starts to study it. Kane seems okay and in good spirits, until he's not. We get the infamous chestburster scene.
Yeah, the cat digs me!
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Not that one. After having destroyed Kane's torso, the alien manages to escape. It's still one of the most holy shit moments in all of movie history. The team jettison Kane's body and decide to go hunting for the alien. They figure out that the alien is using the air ducts to move around. Only what they don't know is that the alien has grown into a xenomorph killing machine. A game of cat and mouse with the xenomorph ensues. It picks off crew members one at a time, starting with Brett, and then moving on to Dallas. With Dallas dead, Ripley is now the ranking crew member. She tries to stay as focused as possible while some of the crew start freaking out.
That's the only way!
She learns that the company's main priority is to secure the xenomorph and that they're all expendable. She doesn't like that idea at all. Ash, who it turns out is an android sent by the company to observe the crew, tries to stop Ripley, as she's going against the company's orders now. They all get into a fight and Ash loses his head.
You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism. Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. I admire its purity, survival, unclouded or delusions of morality. You have my sympathies.
They decide together that the best course of action is to get into the shuttle and blow up the Nostromo.
It's the only way to be sure.
Parker and Lambert go find supplies while Ripley goes to prep the shuttle. Unfortunately, Parker and Lambert find more than just supplies. Ripley hears their screams over the intercom and goes to investigate. She finds them, or what is left. She starts the self-destruct sequence for the ship. She's got 10 minutes before the ship blows up. In the chaos of the self-destruct sequence, Ripley runs into what appears to be the nest of the xenomorph. She finds Dallas barely alive. Knowing what's about to happen to him, he pleads with her to kill him. She obliges and tortures the whole nest. The xenomorph now hunts her. It's blocked her path to the shuttle, so she goes back to stop the self-destruct sequence. Ripley fails to stop the sequence and cautiously races to the escape shuttle, with the xenomorph somewhere out there. She manages to escape on the shuttle with Jonesy the cat, and all seems well in the world again. However, the alien was more clever than she had anticipated and stowed away on the shuttle. While hiding from the alien, Ripley has the idea to vent the shuttle and hopefully pull the alien out into space. She quietly gets into a spacesuit to prepare. She attracts the alien's attention, and as it approaches her, she opens the shuttle doors. The alien grabs onto the door on its way out. To help it out, Ripley shoots it with a grappling gun. It goes careening, but the grappling hook gets stuck in the closing door. The xenomorph tries to climb back into the ship through one of the engines, but Ripley is having none of that. She ignites the engine and it shoots the xenomorph into outer space. Finally, she and Jonesy are safe. She sends out a beacon, puts them both into hypersleep, and hopes for the best. The end. This was one of the first movies to combine the horror and sci-fi genres, but it didn't rush into its terror. It was a slow burn chiller that slowly ratcheted up the terror throughout the movie. In the first half, we got to interact with the crew and we got to know them. This made the stakes so much higher when they started dying. As the xenomorph started its reign of terror, we were as confused and terrified as the crew as this was happening to them. It was a tense and consistently unnerving movie that perfectly used its slow burn pacing to deliver a masterclass in escalating fear. Obscuring the xenomorph with a mere 4 minutes of screen time throughout a 2-hour movie also helped to elevate that unnerving fear of the unknown. What helped with the mysterious nature of the alien was that we got to see different stages of it, so never really knowing what its final form would be and what it would ultimately be capable of. Even in its initial facehugger form, it shows that it was deadly. Apart from violently attaching itself to Kane's face, as the others tried to get it off, it showed its lethality in the acid for blood. The xenomorph has gone down as one of the most iconic monster designs in all of movie history. H.R. Giger's designs were horrific, and in a terrifying way, mesmerizingly beautiful as well. His designs would become the guiding force for the franchise for the following 40 plus years. That's about as iconic and timeless as any design could ever be. In Ripley, we got one of the most iconic heroines in movie history. What made her role so iconic though? She wasn't the typical girl boss we have in today's cinema. She wasn't an OP Mary Sue that blew through the problems without issue. She was a part of the crew of the Nostromo, capable and smart. As the situation got more out of control, she had to step up as a leader. As more crew members died, she had to keep it together and face overwhelming terror in order to stay alive. Eventually, it was only her left against that unspeakable horror. She was scared as hell, as anyone who would go up against an alien like that should be, but even though she was terrified and scared shitless, she managed to keep her wits about her and cunningly outsmart the alien to eventually beat it. She was also the person who stopped Dallas, Kane and Lambert outside the shuttle when they wanted to enter with the facehugger, because of possible contamination protocols. She stuck to her principles when others didn't. You could see her transformation through the film, from world-weary crew member to resilient survivor. But this was only the first part of the legend of Ellen Ripley. Her character would truly be written into legend 7 years later. But that's a story for another time.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Part of the genius of Ridley Scott, particularly when it came to the xenomorph and the horror of the movie, was restraint. We almost never saw the full xenomorph in a shot, and for a lot of the more violent moments, the camera focused on the reactions of what was happening rather than what was happening. Not ever really seeing the full shape, but just the glistening lines and shapes made it even more of an enigma. That helped play into the fear of the unknown and elevated the terrifying nature of the xenomorph. Part of that restraint also lied in the cinematography of the movie. Initially, we were treated to a lot of wide, sweeping and moving shots of the spaceship, and even the derelict alien ship. But as things got more tense, the camera kept moving closer and closer. In the tense scenes, we were basically jumping between close-ups of each participant's face, showing the different emotions of what they felt in that moment. Ridley Scott also did the show, don't tell part of filmmaking quite masterfully in this movie. The best example of this is the scene where they get to the big room with the space jockey. We get clues as to who and what the space jockey was. We also get clues as to the nature of the xenomorph and the facehuggers, without ever directly telling us. We see a hole in the space jockey's chest, where we can make assumptions as to how that happened.
Bones have been outward, like he exploded from inside.
It even foreshadows what's about to happen. We also see the hole in the floor where acid ate through it. It's masterfully done with restraint in trying to over-explain everything to us. Another example is the chestburster scene. If you focus on Ash, you'll see that he keeps focusing on Kane, almost as if he's waiting for something to happen. He knows something the rest of the crew doesn't. Through his earlier analysis of the facehugger, he's already made assumptions and is waiting for the reaction now. When the chaos does happen, he doesn't seem too surprised. It's subtle, but it's there. Many such clues, as well as constant foreshadowing clues, happen this way. It's as if Ridley Scott trusted us as the audience to figure it out by ourselves. The sound design of this film was very unnerving. Even though it isn't always at the forefront, if you listen closely, there's always some sort of droning or breathing or clanging sound to keep you unsettled. Without this clever use of sound, much of what we'd see on screen wouldn't have nearly the sort of impact it did. What might also be quite surprising is that the real antagonist of this movie is not the xenomorph. Yes, it kills the whole crew, but that's merely its nature. It's neither a good or an evil entity. It's not something they could reason with. The real evil here is the company, literally personified by Ash. He's a cold-blooded android with no real emotions, observing and manipulating the crew members and events as he sees fit. The crew are all expendable and he really doesn't care what happens to them.
I mean, but the time it takes to get there, they'll know if it's a warning or not, yes?
Well, it's an interesting combination of elements, making him a tough little son of a bitch.
And you let him in.
I was obeying a direct order, remember?
Him letting Kane in with the facehugger attached, knowing full well that awful things are about to happen to the crew, is just one example. If you focus on him during some of the conversations, you'll see he quickly turns it to what the company wants or needs.
No, Mother wants to talk to you. Well, Mother says the sun's coming up in 20 minutes.
Well, we gotta get it off him.
Just a minute. I mean, let's not be too hasty.
Dallas, it has to go back.
There is an explanation for this, you know.
Or really shows no emotion to what's happening. To him, and by extension the company, the crew are all expendable and merely used in order to get what they need.
Bring back life form. All other priorities rescinded. I can't lie to you about your chances. You have my sympathies.
This corporate overreach and greed keeps being a theme through subsequent Alien movies. Even as VFX has taken massive leaps forward in recent times, and some of the practical effects in this movie could be seen as a bit cheap, or even tacky by some, it still manages to create a nightmarish mood that is yet to be replicated in subsequent sequels. This is one of those movies that stood the test of time with its iconic designs, bleak setting, slow building terror, and unlikely heroine. Go watch it, but do so at your own peril. Anywho, that's me signing off.